Development Agency and ask if there's a public comment. I'm not seeing anyone. I'll close public comment and move to approval of the May 19th IDA meeting.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or corrections on those minutes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving to financial reporting, let's start with resolution 2025-06, authorizing payment of the IDA bills.
I reviewed the bills and move payment.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion on any of those bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Others in financial or cash balances. P&L. Anything there, Jonna, that you wanted to call out? Or?
No, I guess the only thing I would remind everyone is we're about to start entering our budget planning season for 2026. Yes. And so as we look at our cash holdings in particular, we want to think about some of the things we talked about at our strategic planning session and determine if we want to earmark some funds for specific purchases, and that might change what we're doing with our investment strategy. For the IDA and all of our entities, we've been taking a pretty short-term approach for reinvestment, and I continue to do that with the thought that at some point we are going to put a stake in the ground from and invest in this perspective, and we want to have that cash ready, and then we can make some longer-term decisions on the other funds that we're not using.
Absolutely. Okay. The investment report. Seeing that. All right. Anything else financial from anyone? Okay. Next is the executive director's report.
Great. So I just wanted to share some updates with everyone. First, I wanted to share an update on the DRI. We talked about pursuing a DRI application, and I've been coordinating with Brian White, the village manager, and Jill in planning on how we approach the application from here. We have solicited, or the village has solicited, 4 proposals from consultants to support the application, and 3 of the 4 have come in very competitive, well under what we had tentatively expected or thought that might be. So in particular, in sharing those expenses with the village, it's going to be a much more affordable effort than we had initially anticipated. So we're excited about that. And these are very reputable firms with good reputation and have DRI success. So meeting with Brian and some team later this week, we're going to get through the process, make a decision on who's the appropriate consultant, and then we'll move forward in earnest with the DRI application process. But additionally, we made some connection with the Regional Economic Development Office for the Finger Lakes in the last couple of weeks. We went to their public meeting where they talk about the consolidated funding application that New York State puts out for a wide variety of grants and funding. And while the DRI is not part of that, we got on their radar for our intention, and we've got some really good feedback from the Regional Economic Development Council too. So everyone seems to be excited about the opportunity for Fairport to submit this request. And then from an OCED perspective specifically, we have a project kind of like in the waiting with the North Main parking lot phase 2 and the pocket park build out. So at least in the initial call for projects, I would expect that we'll submit that as the OCED project. If there are other ones that we have kind of on the back burner or want to put a little effort in, before the application. Let's talk about that. And
Yeah, I think we do, and we need to talk
Okay.
about that. We gave us a nice, at the planning meeting, you gave us a nice little hit list of potential projects. Some of those village, some could be OCED projects. So,
yes.
so let's kind of revisit those and get our thoughts
Yeah,
on what might work.
which ones and is everything, when do we go over that and start honing in on when we want to do that?
So the consultant will guide us through, but in relatively short order.
Okay.
So once we engage with a consultant, we will want to start doing the community engagement and call for projects almost immediately. And that's when we would want to submit our own projects or get those on that list. So whether we do it in session or we have to have a separate, working session to get through that, we'll have to jump right on it.
Right, okay.
Well, North Main is good because that's a shovel-ready project.
Yeah, North Main's ready to go. We have
And-
estimates.
And
Those may change.
Thomas
but-
Creek, if there's, things that would fit from any Thomas Creek preliminary planning that we have.
When we submit, does it have to be the plans of exactly what we want to do?
No.
Okay, good. So like if we
Yeah,
are, if there
Ve-
is funds
very high
coming, maybe
level.
we rethink that parking lot and make it more into something
Mhm.
more. Okay.
Yeah.
yes.
So that's where we are with DRI. A quick streetscape update. Things are going as well as they can for this big project. We've had some relatively not great feedback from merchants about the impact, but great feedback from the merchants about the crew.
That's great.
They are out there, like Anthony from Lombardi's had a delivery truck and the truck can't access anymore, how the whole front of his facade is torn up. The construction crew came over and unloaded every single pallet off of that truck and into his store.
That's fantastic.
I drove by, propped me up, the plant shop. I was coming up to the light and suddenly there was a car like kind of stopped and pulled over and all these construction workers were coming over. They were doing the exact same thing for that business owner. And they are out there supporting those businesses in every way they can, not just getting the sidewalks kind of ready for Canal Days, which they did. They made a good effort to make sure that nobody was walking through a dirt ditch in front of a store.
Right.
But every day they're doing everything they can to help those merchants, and the merchants are feeling it back and giving that feedback. So that's really kudos to Ramsey Construction and that crew, but they are doing everything they can to support them. And Canal Days, as
That would be Millennium.
Millennium, sorry,
And
Millennium.
I'm just going to add to that. I talked to Paul and Carolyn at Fireworks Woodworking.
Mhm.
Paul said they cleaned the street 12 times in front of our business before Canal Days.
Yeah.
That's
So Canal Days was a success. And those same merchants were surveyed by the partnership and the Merchants Association, and they said that they had a relatively busy, active Canal Days for the circumstances. So that went again as well as it could be. The Walk This Way campaign is getting some good traction from have the intended impact. The media came out really strong for Canal Days. They paid attention to the Walk This Way campaign, and now you can find it out there. If you search Walk This Way, you're going to get a little snippet about Fairport and the construction and everything that's happening there with the message, come out, everything's open. And so that's a good success that OCED should say we're supporting our merchants in the right way. I mentioned that I went to the Economic Development Conference. I'll keep it pretty brief, but they cover the full body of knowledge of economic development over the course of 4 days. So it was really intense, but some good knowledge on financial packages, incentives, business attraction and retention. And I think it was a good decision to do that. That was a recommendation of the former executive director, and I appreciate her support and encouragement for that. I mentioned already our budget planning, so I'll skip over that. So the last thing I'll mention, everybody knows that we brought on a new employee, Amy Olds. She's here supporting us in communications and administration. But one thing that I heard at the Economic Development Conference is that business owners, CEOs, site selectors, the #1 social media place they are looking is LinkedIn. 72% said LinkedIn is their #1 source, and we're not doing much on LinkedIn. But I'm happy to say that over in the last 30 days, we've had a 35 new followers on LinkedIn, 100% due to Amy's efforts over there. And in general, since the beginning of the year, we've had over 50 new followers. And so we're starting to gain some traction. We don't have a lot, but that's over a 169% increase just in the last 30 days. So we're going to be focusing more there and making sure we're really honing our message to those business owners, site selectors, people looking for where to bring their business. So
Is it helpful if we share
definitely
posts on our
helpful.
LinkedIn page? And
Yes.
everything? Okay.
Yes. If you're following, share it. I see your likes out there, so thank you. You all do that. But yeah, the more you can promote and boost it, it helps. That's the conclusion for my report. Any questions for me?
Thank you. You're welcome, Amy.
Yeah,
Happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
You bet.
When Jana talked about the media was out here during Canal Days, one of her comments that I found interesting is when they interviewed her, I saw her interview, she did a great job. But when she told me about the interview before I saw the interview, she said it felt almost like they were trying to bait me and get me to say something negative about the construction.
Really?
But
That
you
was
came
kind
on
of the
strong, you know.
Yeah, I think they really wanted us to say, oh, woe is us, poor Fairport, but we showed that we are resilient and can rise above that and work through it, and we did. So, yeah.
That's great.
Okay, anything else for John on that? All right. Old business is the scholarship reallocation discussion.
Yes, so this is old business because we had discussed the Donna Yaman scholarship last meeting, and that there was not an applicant this year, and that we wanted to make sure that we promote that further. Following that meeting, there was a separate scholarship application winner who is a program participant in our Section 8 program. It's a separate scholarship through New York State Public Housing Authority. Our team Jennifer's team in Section 8 submitted this student, and she won the scholarship. And they're having a luncheon in her honor tomorrow, and they're really proud of that. So this is just an opportunity not to name this student as the Donna Yaman Scholarship winner, but just to inquire and discuss if these funds are not being allocated this year, could they instead be allocated to this scholarship winner for us to recognize directly the accomplishments of this student.
So in addition to the housing association's
Right,
contrib, that was $2,500.
$2,500, yes.
And ours is 500.
Ours is 1,000. Well, the Donna Yaman Scholarship is 1,000.
Yeah.
I don't know that we would want to call this the Donna Yaman Scholarship
Correct.
recipient. The question is, would we want to allocate the funds somewhere else this year, since there isn't a recipient? If we can do that, and you probably have more insight into.
Did you talk to Dollars for Scholars? Because
I did not want to talk to Dollars to
Scholars.
Scholars until I talked to this board about that.
I sat on that board for 7-8 years, and it's not unusual what happened. Sometimes it just doesn't work. 10 hours of community service in the village seems insurmountable to those kids in December.
We haven't done anything for.
Well, that's when the scholarships, that's when the applications open up and they actually pay attention, so, or you know, Christmas week is a great week to get a lot of volunteers working for you, because those parents are hounded in January to get their applications in by the end of the month, so you get like 2 months to pull this together. But it's not unusual that some scholarships don't get, nobody matches, you know, or is eligible to apply, because like the process, you put in all your criteria, you know, basically your resume, you know, who you volunteered for, what clubs you were president of, and it kind of narrows down and spits out a list of things you'd be eligible for. You know, so clearly nobody was eligible for that, likely based on community service requirement, I suspect, you know. But that was something that Donna was very passionate about, you know, and last time when we met and talked about, you know, should we change our criteria or anything like that, you know, and I just think that probably not, we just need to advertise it. You know.
How many years have we been doing this lesson? When did Donna pass?
Donna died, I think, 19.
I think the first, or the first documents that I see are from 2019.
You know,
And this is a first for us.
This is a
We've
first for
always
us,
had,
yeah.
you know, someone to report.
and, you know, we turned over, we established it and let Dollars for Scholars manage it. Because how do we know who's the best? We shouldn't be cherry picking kids. I mean, you know, for that. And, you know, we let them manage it, and there's highs and lows to that.
It sounds like that community service element's important
Yeah.
to it.
Of course it is.
We've had a lot of library volunteers.
Yeah.
Because it's in the village. And
you
that's
know.
probably the biggest source of volunteers.
If we don't, so we know now there was nobody that got it, right? We know we have
Right.
that money. It doesn't impact Dollars for Scholars at all if we allocate those funds.
I don't know if we
somewhere
can
else?
get those funds, but I don't
Oh,
know,
we
where
give it
are
to
they
them?
sitting? I suspect they're sitting in some pot of money that they manage.
Oh,
We're not cutting a check to any student, they do.
right, okay.
So I don't know that we can get
Oh.
$1,000
Yeah,
back.
good point.
When
You
you
know,
give
that's,
the dollars
it's probably
for
there
scholars, just from personal experience, you give them the $1,000 prior, it's like back at the beginning of March, it's due, and it stays with them until they distribute it to the students. So if you were looking to use those funds, you would probably have to go have them hold the funds that you allocated this year till next year and pull what you would be giving to somebody next year. Because they're gonna just hold on to the funds. They're not gonna give them back to you.
Didn't we put a?
That's what I'm
We
thinking.
put a
that's
lump
it.
sum down in honor of Donna. And I don't, and so I, it's not even that we're.
Probably,
writing a check.
I mean,
Right.
that's the first step is
Memorial
let's see.
scholarship in
Yeah.
that fashion.
There's not really much to allocate in this
Right,
situation.
and, you know,
I thought it was like an annuity account essentially that we funded and then would pull from annually.
Guess what you get.
And Dollars for Scholars actually doesn't send it straight to the student, they
it
send
goes
it
right
straight
to
to
the
the
college.
school.
Yes, for the student.
For the
Yeah, so
student,
that
it goes
right-
right to
Oh,
the
right, for their
school.
tuition?
Yeah, it goes
that's
right
great.
to
You
their,
don't even see
right
it.
to their bursar. Yeah.
I was just thinking from a logistical lens, the village board has a student representative who's putting in well more than, is it 10 hours of service?
Mhm.
There would be nothing, you know, stopping us from reminding our student that this is available on Dollars for Scholars, and because of their service, they would have that part of the,
Right.
Yep.
you know, eligibility like already completed.
Yep.
So that it would be up to them to
Apply and.
apply. Yeah, so I guess if we just took one more step to just kind of communicate with our students that this is available, I didn't.
And your students still live in the village, right? They have to be,
Most of them do, this year's does not.
I know they
Ours-
didn't
ours
have,
doesn't
We've opened
include
it
the
up.
Village, they just have to do community
So our
service.
students can be in the town
Oh.
of Carrington, they don't have to attend Fairport schools, they can attend. a
right, I
private-
always
a
knew that
private
there was
school.
different schools. I was
Same
thinking
here.
they had to be village residents, but
Impact here.
that's all I remember all the ones were.
I know, I remember when I was at the board, it was all, they were village residents,
Yeah.
but,
They were
I don't know,
having
I
kind of
feel-
a hard time filling it
Oh.
with just being in the village, so we sort of opened it up
Mhm.
because we just provide experience.
I don't know, I have so many thoughts on this from, you know, from yay, this girl worked her tail off and has gotten herself into a good college and she's got a good scholarship. And like every other kid in Fairport, every other 12th grader in Fairport, whether they're a high schooler or a Mercy student or whatever, had the opportunity to apply and meet our requirements. I don't think we should share. I'm concerned about the process or the precedent being set by us cherry picking a student and where that could go.
I hear what you're saying, and certainly this is the decision for this board, but I just want to be clear, my suggestion is not to determine who is the Donna Yaman scholarship winner, not cherry pick the student, only that if these funds were not going to be, if those are just going to lie fallow this year, would we like to reallocate those funds to support or match this other scholarship?
Which is in essence cherry picking it.
Well, it sounds like we may not have funds. Yeah, it sounds like they're all in it for this, if we didn't use that 1,000, it's for the next time. It doesn't sound like there's money that we have to move around, necessarily. Because we're not going to be putting any money in. We'd have to come up with money, right?
Yeah, if it is, as you said, it's already a fund somewhere else. That's different than these dollars are over here, not going anywhere.
Right.
Us not giving them somewhere. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Because I agree with your point. If we had this money sitting here that we were going to pay out, and now we're not, maybe we allocate it to someone else who looked like they worked hard in something that's housing, which is one of our goals. But I would say, in my opinion, since we don't have that money here, maybe it makes sense not to do anything.
Yeah, I'd like to find out how much money we have.
Okay.
Because what you said, Rob, I seem to remember it was a lump sum.
Yep.
You know,
We're not funding it annually. It's
If there's
there.
a $10,000 chunk in there, $5,000, I don't know.
I feel like it was a $40,000 chunk.
Well,
I'm pulling that out of my.
The other thing I'd just add, when the scholarship, we talked about having it, and if the from the perspective of the board, was that the mission, that the funds are supposed to go towards the mission, and that the mission here is that this student has done something to contribute to the overall economic development prosperity of the village. So, and I think if we were ever audited by their ABO, they say, where did this $1,000 go? Why did it go to this? And if it went to someone other than someone under that scholarship that had the clear delineation of it follows the mission of the IDA, I think that could be problematic. So that's another concern I'd have.
Okay.
Makes sense.
For reallocation.
That's a good thought, though. Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion regarding that? Okay, next one's a fun one.
The
Flotsam River Circus sponsorship.
So in your packet is an overview of the Flotsam River Circus. If you're not familiar, it is a floating performance art group, and they do music and performance and acrobatics.
Puppeteering, we found out.
I don't know that the same puppeteering will be part of this act, but it's an exciting alternative adventure on the water. And they float down a waterway over the course of a season. They've done the Mississippi River, and this year they're doing the Erie Canal in celebration of the 200-year anniversary of the Erie Canal, and they are making a stop in Fairport, and we're so excited to have them here. They operate almost 100% off the grid. They live in their bus, and they operate on donations and the support of the communities that they go to. So they have shared a list of things that would help make their experience better, and we're working on in partnership with Nancy Bregas and the Partnership for the Fairport Farrington Partnership. how we can mutually support their visit. And so this item is to talk about what level of support and how we might want to support them. Do you have any thoughts, Mr. Clark?
I loved it. You know, John and I and Amy met with 2 of their representatives who were kind of doing a promo tour across the state, because they're going from Albany to New York City.
Oh, wow.
And so we were lucky to procure them to come to Fairport. But they were just fun. I mean, it was fun to talk to. They're really passionate about what they're doing. They're entertainers. You know, one guy is he's a punk accordionist. You know, I mean, but they didn't want to give too much away about their act. But it just, if you go onto their website, you can see the stuff that they've done. So yeah, as John said, they'll pass a bucket. You know, that's kind of the way they do it, but they never really know how many people are actually going to be there.
Sure.
You know, are going to show up, and so, but they'll have volunteers going through the crowd passing a bucket, and so that will cover part of their expenses. But the wish list, I never did see the wish list that you guys had. So I don't know. Are you thinking cash donation or?
I am thinking some cash donation would probably be the most direct way for us to support them. So the things on their wish list start in order of things like creature comforts. They don't have showers and bathrooms on that bus, and so they would love access to a shower. And so we're going to provide that with the voter showers. They would like meals for their group. And so in talking with Nancy Regas, those are things she thinks she could get volunteers from restaurants to provide their meals for the evening.
Quite a diverse menu for the people. You know.
There's only, what did they say, about a dozen, less than a dozen of them in total. They sleep on their bus. They would love some lodging. That one is a little more complicated, and I'm not sure exactly how we might directly provide that for them. And they have a target earning level of around $3,000 per stop. They passed their bucket, and when I asked them what they expected they might take from a community our size, they said maybe around $1,000 to $1,500. So that gives us kind of a range if we want to think about matching that bucket pass or just making a $1,500 contribution.
That's kind of what's been in my head.
Yeah. So if they're trying to get to 3,000 and they think they might get between 1,000 and 1,500, could we cover the gap there?
Yeah.
I move that we do 17.5, just to make it clear, just in case people are short. Nobody carries cash anymore.
I know, it's so true. To put cash in a bucket.
Though there is a Venmo on their website.
Yeah, the OCA, yes. Last year, by the way, last year's trip was the Ohio River. We started in Pittsburgh and went to Cincinnati. They talked about when they started in Pittsburgh, they did a couple of shows there, and it rained all the time. So that really, because these things work seasonally.
Sure.
You know, so where she's talking about 3,000, they're putting the whole package of the month of August trip that they're doing from Buffalo to Albany. We get a couple of rainouts.
That's a big deal.
They still do the costs.
Do you have a date when you're planning?
August the 10th, 7 p.m.
Correct.
And they're out there in the water. They're a 501c3, by the way. And they're out there in the water, and I was wondering how they're stationary, but I think it must be the gangplanks. We didn't specifically ask that question, but they'll put a gangplank down. But I mean, a family-friendly show, that's what it's supposed to be, but just kind of zany.
So just in terms of it, for the IDA it's supposed to be promotional, so there has to be some type of tie-in with OCED. So I don't know if you can put a banner up or have them make a statement.
Or should this come from the LDC?
Either one.
because most of our community support has come through LDC.
LDC, but the IDA can do promotional, like you promote
The
the
praise.
New York State Economic Development Conference, and so you are allowed to. It just has to be, it's a promotional thing. So the public is aware that you contributed funds that are providing this
Yes.
benefit to the
It
community.
should be the,
Yep.
it should not be the LDC. It should be the
You understand? Yeah, if you do the IDA, then, but yeah, so I would have either,
It's tough to get money out of the IDA, so.
Yeah.
that-
but some type of banner or something
Yeah.
to
Or
indicate.
if they call us, if we give them a good chunk to get them halfway there, maybe they can say something.
Correct. Yep. Something that we can tie back into if anyone ever asks, what was the money for? It was a promotional event, to benefit the community and promote economic development. And so, this is what we did to be able to promote this.
Yeah, they made a big point about that they're not into naming rights and promotional stuff.
Yeah.
Doing that.
But you could do it like on
But
LinkedIn.
certainly
You
our
could
stuff,
link,
if
Yep.
if there's.
you can promote it on LinkedIn and say, we're sponsoring this, partial sponsor, and we hope everyone comes
Yeah.
out to.
Oh,
We have our
Yep,
own means.
yep.
Where do we watch them from?
They're going to be on the northwest bank, right at the kayak area, on those docks and
It
there.
was like Kevin's house.
I know,
You're
but I
gonna watch
asked,
from your backyard?
well, no, I asked him, I said, you're not in the
Yeah, on the
ground by
porch.
any chance, are you? They
Yeah.
said, no, we're just gonna be facing north.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I support a cash lump sum, whatever amount. I think that's great. I love that they're real circus performers. I mean, like old fashioned traveling, living out of there.
vaudeville
Yeah.
almost,
I mean, I just think it's so wild.
I'm supportive too. I'm not married to any specific amount.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good ad that we can get behind.
Well, if Leslie has a feeling and she's thrown out a number, I have no problem with
Yeah,
that.
I'm
You
good with
guys all comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Goes a little beyond just 1,500.
Yes, I did 17.
One of the other things that is gonna happen, and I don't know if you and Nancy have talked about it at all, is they asked for the possibility of getting some risers, behind the crowd, so
That's really
that's,
sweet.
because their ideal performance place is someplace that's more of a bowl, that they can-
Yeah.
people can sit on banks and stuff.
Where do we get
So I don't know, that's,
I think that we had talked about it, and there's a hope that maybe we could get those
Sean
donated
McCarthy,
somewhere
we'll get-
in the
Sean,
community, but undetermined.
What if we turned them around and put them facing the platform on the south side where you have Kennelly Park almost as a.
Does everybody
stadium
get a
seating?
stand up there?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there's a lot more room on the other side. And they said there, hundreds of people. That's what they would expect. And they said, but we never know, and we don't know. A lot of it's gonna depend on our promotion, but we're hoping and expecting that there will be 1,000 people. So that was your motion, Leslie?
Yeah, and yes, 1750, I move to support them and make sure that we promote it well, our sponsorship well.
A second.
And discussion, just one last thing, this is not a ticketed event. It's,
Right.
as we said earlier, they're relying on donations. So. All in favor?
Aye. Set up.
All right. Any other new business IDA?
No.
Anything from the board IDA?
Nothing else.
We'll take a motion to adjourn.
We'll move to adjourn.
Just a side comment about that. If Nancy's involved, she should be pushing the merchants to make sure that there's lots of things open and available for people who are coming to watch this show too, and go to eat afterwards. If
On a
it
Sunday
helps those
night.
merchants who
Oh,
are
On a
there's-
Sunday night. Yeah.
That's true, there's not a line.
Yeah, no, she's aware of that.
Yeah.
She's planning.
Well, there's circumstances.
Yes, it will.
And there's the new
the
Hots
Hots.
place,
Yeah.
TK's hot dog emporium, or
TJ's,
TJ's.
TJ Ryan's.
You haven't been there yet?
No.
Oh, you got to check it
So we
out.
have Dippin' Dots, all the rage. for the
Oh, I
kids
know.
these days.
He said he's the only one that can sell them. All right, so We had the motion to adjourn.
We did.
And a second.
I believe less.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, urban renewal next.
LD.
Or do LDC?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, LDC next. All right, I will call the June 16th, 2025 meeting of the Fairport Local Development Corporation to order and ask if there's any public comment. Not hearing any, we'll close public comment and move to approval of the May 19th, 2025 LDC meeting.
I'll move to approve.
I will second.
Any corrections or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving into financials, resolution 2025-06, authorizing payment of the LDC bills.
I reviewed the LDC bills and move that we approve it.
Is the Fairport Parenting Partnership the ad? Is that an
Yes,
ad we did with them? Like we went in on it with them, or?
it is an ad that I have to admit predates me a little bit. It's something we do annually that we collaborate with them that goes in the RBJ.
Okay, cool.
This
And I think
Visit
we-
Rochester
We may have
edition.
approved that in our budgeting.
Yes, it is. It's a
It's like a
budgeted.
Visit Rochester.
Yeah, it's in Visit
okay.
Rochester.
So was that your second?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Any other discussion regarding payment of those bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Cash balances and other financials. Anything there? Okay. LDC loan status report. We don't have the breakdown, but everything is current. Anything on any of the loans? Any new loan applications in the wings?
No, I don't have any. I mean, I have some
Did it-
interest, but no one is actively submitting anything right now.
But people are
Yeah.
still talking to.
Yes. Yes.
Facade grant improvements.
So you have a summary of the current sign and facade grant program, and there are no changes to this since our last meeting. But last meeting,
Requirement that it's actually a startup, because you're right, it could be just new to the village, not necessarily a startup. Maybe we don't care, right? As long as they're doing good and. Okay.
But it'd be great if every new business that came to Fairport went through a business training program. And
I like the idea of making it so there's no longer, like, there's no financial impact of that either, the collaboration. I love that.
the time commitment.
Yeah.
But I just don't have a lot of confidence that that's gonna happen.
Is it worth it? Is it worth it to them?
Yeah.
Is the $5,000 maximum worth it to them to go through that program for whatever time it takes? I don't know. I wondered, as I read this, should one of the requirements be that they join the partnership or the chamber or one of those
Oh.
business groups,
I think that the merchants would require them to join the Merchants Association if they wanted the
Yeah, sorry.
the benefit of the paid program. So they would have to be members of the Merchants Association.
I wonder if we can offer that option to them or something versus having it be a requirement.
Well, if they don't take the course, they're ineligible for the grant, this program as we defined it.
Mhm.
But we have to do some hard writing.
I'll handle
Take
it.
a look at
And
it,
then the
kind of like.
Merchants Association want to recover their investments by having them become paid members of the
Right.
Merchants Association. right? So,
Mhm. You know, to Rob's point, this really is, it's so valuable to those businesses that are just in their first, second, third year, maybe even beyond the grant dollars that they get from us. They're going to come out of this with a real business plan, a real forecast, a counselor who's going to take them through the process of how to grow and market and build a sustainable business. And that's the real value of the program beyond our grant dollars to do those things. But it's for those people who call my office and like, I'm going to start a candle store. I heard you have some dollars.
Yeah.
I go, okay, tell me about your business plan. And then it just goes off the rail from there.
Right.
And that might be the world's best candle store. And I would love to help them. And this is a way to say, okay, before you're ready for some of our more robust programs, here's a way for you to get started with your business, get through the basics, and then they come back around when they're like the world's biggest candle store manufacturer. And remember that we helped them when they were a small business too.
I think we've also been reluctant historically to support new businesses in a way where it was potentially just kind of going to be money that was just going to be kind of thrown out there.
right.
Yeah.
Like inventory, we would not buy,
That's
we
right.
would not support purchase of inventory.
With this, there's a little bit, we're adding a little bit of stability, right, in the investment that's being made by ensuring that the fundamental elements of a successful next couple of years, right, the business plan, all of these ones, that they're there. And it'll certainly be somebody's choice to say, no thanks, right? It's okay. Then you're going to do this, potentially without the grant.
Right.
And good on you. So I like I said, the bones of it. I like and happy to take a look and a pencil to some suggestions.
Great.
Have what you need from us.
I believe so. So the next step for this, we'll take the feedback from this meeting, but any additional review or feedback, and then I'll share another version before our next meeting, and we can talk from there.
Any other new business? Oh, we have an
I did have a new business item. I think it's an LDC, sorry. The
Well, we have the
merchants-
application for the community support for the construction box.
yes, that we didn't talk about that yet.
So that's not on the agenda, but that is FLDC.
Yes. So, and the merchants sent over a little more detail this afternoon, so we shared that with you as well. But the Construction Bucks program, it would be a partnership with the Merchants Association and OCED, should we choose to support it. The intention is to infuse direct dollars into our retailers to support the slower business during this construction. It's really an incentive, so it's only an incentive if you've already spent dollars. So if you spend $10, you get $1 in construction bucks. You have to spend 10 or you get $1 for every $10 that you spend. You can only earn $10 in one purchase, so you've spent $100 to earn your $10, and then you have to come back and use those $10 with another participating merchant in the village. So our $2,500 could spur $50,000 of economic investment in our retailers. And then the ancillary spending that might come from there. So that's the proposal. It would be operated by the Merchants Association. And just for full transparency, the Merchants Association has not officially approved this yet and is on their agenda for their next meeting.
And did this come out of their planning?
It came out of planning between OCED and the partnership, but the partnership, as I think everyone knows, works to support the Merchants Association at an administrative level. So Nancy, Pam, our office, yes.
Have we heard from any, or have they heard from any of the businesses saying this type of program is what we need or
Yes.
what we want?
Yes, so they have interest, and that's what took them to develop it to what you have in your hand there. And so now they have to get approval from their board as well. But they expect that there is enough interest that they would get approval for it. So our approval could certainly be, your approval could be conditional on that. And again, it only costs us money if people are engaging in the program.
If somebody actually takes the $1 and
Yes,
spends it next door.
yes.
How long will this go on for?
It will go for July and August is what we anticipate right now.
It would be
Account for
2,500.
restaurants too?
It would count for any participating merchant in the Merchants Association. Any participating merchant. It is up to the merchants to decide if they are in or out of the program, yes.
But they're whole, they're made whole.
They're made whole, right?
By
If,
this money.
yes,
Right,
if
okay.
someone comes to them and spends $100 and 10 of them are construction bucks, they're going to submit those bucks to the Merchants Association to be reimbursed.
And there's a max of the amount of bucks that can circulate
Yes,
because we have a, yeah, okay.
yes.
I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah. The first thing that struck me, $2,500 to go to the Merchants Association, but then I'm thinking, this is a campaign. They Walk This Way campaign.
Yeah.
You look at what we did when the bridge was down,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we were putting money out there for anything, and we really haven't put any money out.
So this is a
We
fraction,
Walk This Way.
a small fraction. of what
We are supporting the Walk This Way advertising costs.
Yeah.
There's a consultant engaged, and we have definitely supported that. So,
I say we approve this pending approval from the Merchants Association at this $2,500 level.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
thank you.
Did you say there was one other thing, LDC?
No, that was the thing. It just wasn't on the agenda.
Oh,
Apologies on that.
Motion to adjourn, LDC.
So
In favor?
Or you have to- Okay. Cruise through this.
All right, I will call the June 16th, 2025 meeting of the Fairport Urban Renewal Agency to order. And ask if there's any public comments. Seeing none, hearing none. I'll close public comment and move to approval of the May 19th, 2025 URA meeting. Any corrections or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Going into financials, we have resolution 2025-06, authorizing payment of the URA bills.
having reviewed the bills for the URA, I move passage.
Second.
Any questions on any of those? All in favor?
Aye.
Next is resolution 2025-06, authorizing payment of the section 8 bills.
Having reviewed the Section 8 housing bills, I'm recommending we move passage.
I'll second again.
Any Questions or discussion on any of those bills? Okay, all in favor? Aye. We have cash and investments and financials for both URA and Section 8. Anything there that anyone wants to talk about or has questions on? Going to the URA loan status report. Here's current, and I'm guessing that there's a small.
It's the one, yes.
It's just the timing.
It is timing, just again, it sounds regular, but this report is pulled on Friday, June 13th, and this person generally pays their bill on the 18th or through the 18th or 20th of the month. It's always the same person. They're very current, actually, just not based on the timing of this report. And you can see that by the very small amount of past due.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Okay. Front porch grant activity.
So no change on the report, but we do have 2 new front porch applications in your packet. Both meet the criteria, and I would recommend approval. They're 2 very different properties. One is at 32 Roselawn, historic, well, I don't know, historic, an older home from a more, time past in our community. It's brick and pillared and big foundation kind of house. It's fallen into some disrepair. The porch needs some work, but it is a beautiful old porch, or could be with some restoration. The second house is from a much newer time period in a more modern neighborhood, but right now has an awning over just a portion of their front porch or their front yard. Aesthetically, it could look much better than it does. And the plans that he's got would really improve the overall look of his facade and walking up to his home. He's excited about the project and is hopeful that we would fund and support this new construction of a porch. So one is a rehabilitation and the other is a new construction.
Have we ever done a total new constructed porch? Maybe in lieu of a stoop, maybe, or something, I guess, right? We talked about that. We talked about it.
We've never done this.
I see the awning, so he's been trying to use it as a covered porch. Great.
The picture is more flattering than the live view. I'm sure that the porch is going to really elevate the property. It's got a beautiful patio built underneath it already.
Oh, it does?
It does.
So we would just be building the cover and the
Yes.
support and everything.
It looks like stamped concrete or something.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna run, it's gonna run the entire facade.
Yes.
So the porch is not gonna be raised, it's gonna be at ground level?
It's at ground level.
I mean, this is sort of the purpose of the grant, right? To take a home that's not front porch friendly and, or keep.
The grant does allow for construction.
Right.
I drove through the neighborhood and I'll say most of the houses don't have porches. And at first I thought, well, if this is supposed to be to restore it to the tradition of the neighborhood, is it meeting that criteria? But as I drove through the neighborhood more, some of them do, and they certainly look a lot nicer. And the ones that have a front porch, you can see that there's chairs on that porch and sometimes people on that porch.
Those are raised porches, correct?
Yes, yes.
Right, there's a difference, yeah.
Well, let's deal with Roseland first. That would certainly be a nice improvement and certainly a target, something we can target. So would there be a motion to approve that?
So moved.
First, wait, let's back up a second. Have we been approving these things?
Yeah.
Yes, because
Yeah.
we've denied some.
I mean, there's a section on the form that says approval of the board.
Oh, like we talked about it and then she made the determination, like she did it.
Oh, yeah. thought
I
we
think
were-
you've been approving them.
I think so too.
Okay. We approve. So who said that?
I said move.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the Roseland application? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. My concern, I believe that it would be an improvement. My concern is it is a ground level covered
Covered
patio.
patio versus a porch.
And I'm gonna, I don't have real strong, well, I can't, I'll say I don't like it, but I could be convinced certainly at least. Good thoughts on it, but I kind of go back to when I first started on the planning board, many years ago, and approving things like this, and one of them was they didn't want decks on the front of the house, still in keeping with front porch friendly. That, I mean, that way preceded the whole front porch friendly thing. But people were coming in with programs that, you know, were just timbered, looking like a deck on the front of the house. And the planning board wasn't approving those.
Okay.
And I think rightfully so. So now there's a similarity in my head with a covered patio. And does this have, I don't know do we have a rendering of what the columns would look like?
Right.
We don't, we only have the drawing from his contractor, which doesn't
Yeah, that's
really,
just structural.
yeah.
It's, you know, it's not a rendering.
yeah, no.
I would say that I would really need to see what this thing's gonna look like before I would support it.
Making that our response. I'd be on board with asking for more information.
Right. Well, it looks like, and I think it's fair to say that it doesn't look like it looks like it encompasses the front door a little bit. Are they changing the stoop, or is it all coming
Yeah.
forward? Because I think we have to have it be at the front door, and if it's just kind of stuck on the side of the front door, then maybe too that kind of hits that criteria. But I can't tell how it matches up to the front door.
Yeah, so my understanding is that the front door is now going to be in the middle. Right now, he's got that, the door is not moving. The awning is here, and then there's the front door, and his awning stops at the front door.
Right.
But the porch is going to go over the whole facade.
So it will
Yes.
encompass the front
It will
door.
encompass the front
That
door.
makes a little bit of a difference to me too, if the front door is engaged in it.
In looking at this now, Ken, I'm seeing on the engineered drawings, 6x6 pressure treated post that screens back.
Yeah. It looks like we maybe would want some more finishes to look like a porch.
It's like a column.
Yeah, look like a column.
Okay.
You can have it be
I mean, structure.
sort of ground level if that's where you are, as long as it's finished, you know, the railing, you know, I don't know, it looks like a porch.
Okay,
Yeah, so railings as well as columns would be the kind of things we're looking for to really make this a porch.
okay.
And it does sound like money's tight for them. So these understandably, these might make it an untenable project for them. Which
Yeah.
understood.
Okay, so we'll ask them for more information
Yeah,
specific
and you
to,
can kind of give them a heads up what the
Yeah.
board is looking like or what they're questioning. They want to make sure it looks like a porch.
Traditional porch finishes. or
Yeah.
whatever.
okay, great.
Is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
All right. Then front porch, salary, 25-26 salary schedule adoption.
Can we didn't do section 8 housing
Oh,
report.
I'm sorry. Well, yeah, we did.
And,
We jumped down. Sorry.
Obviously Jennifer Sturgis is not here, but specifically, so you have her report and you can review it. If there are questions, we can go through them. But specifically, she does require a resolution outlining the goals in the 5-year plan, and those are in your packet. So we didn't have much of an opportunity to talk about it at our planning meeting, but I think she shared those in that packet as well. Those have not changed, except there has been an update made to the technology portion where we're just going to ensure that our new technology meets HUD and HOTMA reporting standards and not necessarily commit to changing, but first understanding where we need to be.
Right, we talked about that.
Yeah.
during the planning session.
So what is the action required of us for those goals?
The
Adopt,
action-
accept,
Adopting the goals outlined in the 5-year plan.
I'll move adoption.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? As John said, we all got Jen's report. All right, now. Salary schedule.
Yes, the 2025-2026 salary schedule with the COLA adjustment that comes out every June was published by the village. They shared it with us. And as is typical, we need a resolution to adopt the new salary schedule.
John, where was this in the packet?
It's not in the packet,
Oh, okay.
but I've got copies. I looked at prior years and it wasn't consistent as to whether you were seeing a copy or not. If you want to see it, we have copies of that here. Yes.
What was the increase this year?
2% flat.
We're ready to go with it.
So, yeah, we've all been through this. It's an annual. So is there a motion to adopt?
Sure, I'll move adoption.
Any questions? Discussion? All in favor? It's done. I signed the certification, gave that back to you. Correct. What else? Nothing else on urban renewal? Yes,
No, good.
we can have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
5, yeah.
You get out of here, Ed.
Yep.